Hi, everybody. First, was anyone here in 2010? Not that I can see. Yay! Because if you were here in 2010, you know that was a very exciting year for us. And I'm actually the co-founder with Ori of Augmented World Expo. We started off calling it Augmented Reality Event. And that was a very exciting year. I think the smartphone had really, initiated this ecosystem that we've spent the last 8 years building. But hats off to Ori, because I've been busy with other things too. So I haven't been very high profile in this event for the last few years. And today, I am director of AR+VR, Corporate Technology Strategy, Huawei USA. But I'm actually going to talk under my second hat as the co-founder of Augmented World Expo and augmentedreality.org, because I actually think we're at a very we're at a tipping point again. And little quick highlights, I don't want to spend too long on this, but these aspects of my career have become crucial to my understanding of AR/VR. I began in visual effects, did back in the long ago that I can barely remember, a 6-DoF motion control robot, which was used actually, the software was used in Little Shop of Horrors and Star Trek V. And essentially that's augmented reality for film. And I was dreaming of the day when we would have devices and could do it in the wild. And then, as you know, in 2009, I met Ori, and we were both very inspired with growing this ecosystem. We were both experiencing people not even understanding what we meant when we said augmented reality and smartphones as a match made in heaven. And then, one of the things that drew me away from Ori was actually I had this opportunity to work with Will Wright for 4 years. And I think that experience of, he's the great master of simulation games, The Sims, and actually a great master of AI, one of the earliest sort of great thinkers in the space. And we worked on a number of things, augmented reality television, smart toys, but also personalized mobile social experiences. And this is the sort of theme of why I'm actually very excited this year, because this is as big to me this year as 2010 was. And why? Because we really understood it was going to be a mobile-first culture in 2010, and that was going to affect everything about AR and our dreams for this ecosystem to grow. And now it's quite clear we're at another big tipping point, and it's going to be AI first. I didn't coin that phrase. That's from Satya Nadella. And I think this is sort of something everyone in this room has to think about. If you're not thinking about it, start thinking about it. And I bring up, Bruce Sterling's talk, if you can find it on the internet. Listen hard. So many things he said then we've seen evolve over the last 8 years of Ori. And this is something I think Tom introduced. I put this phrase XR in the title, and I think I, like a lot of other people, have used XR because we're kind of a bit tired of going AR, VR, MR, mixed reality, simulated reality. But I decided to actually think about XR and be a bit more disciplined about it. I actually think it's important to rethink the definition of augmentation and augmented reality and virtual reality. And this is the heart of it. This is from a book, Homo Deus, so superpowers to the people. This is what it means to live in the world where the people have superpowers. This book is an exploration of that. But this is the key point. It's not about upgrading our external tools. That's the sort of idea of, the older idea of augmented reality, where it's like this new UI to the world. It had 3 main points in the Zoomer's original definition: 3D, interactive in real time, and registered on the world. But I think we've moved beyond this. It's actually much more about upgrading the human body, augmenting the human body and mind, and merging directly with our tools. And if you start thinking about this, a lot of things come to mind. And these are the 3 sort of paths of the upgrade: cyborg engineering, biological engineering, and the engineering of non-organic beings. I think there are many presentations this Ori on digital humans and where that can take us. Nadella also published these 10 laws of AI, and I think they probably should be revamped as the 10 laws of augmentation. They are very tricky. I mean, number one, respect human autonomy. When you start thinking about this of merging with our own tools, what is human autonomy? That's going to be a hard one. AI must be transparent. If you work with neural nets, you know this is one of the difficulties of neural nets, is this sort of black box effect. Third, AI must maximize efficiencies and not without destroying the dignity of people. We're all familiar with bad AI that has bad training models like Twitter and learns to be an abusive, nasty character. So we have lots of challenges with these. Number 4, I think, is really the one we've made progress on thanks to Blaise Aguirre-Iacos, who was also one of our first speakers at Augmented Reality event 2010. And this, this Google research project, which he's part of, is just, I mean, it's critical. And it's, I think, the first big progress on the laws. You do need to have this sort of, model where the training data can actually be on the device. You can read this paper online, but it's very important work. Merging directly with our tools. And I think, one of the, the holodeck is a very good example of this. NVIDIA's holodeck is, because they're using their massive GPU power, is really showing a lot of what this integration of VR and AR will be about. But one thing that if you've been in AR, VR, or XR as long as I have, you know that the networking part of this is critical. There was another flowering of VR in the 90s, and pretty much what killed it was way more important to network the world than it was to work on sort of kiosk-style VR. And this is a slide from High Fidelity, who I think are really trying to think this through of what a networked virtual reality might look like. And, because if you're imagining that XR involves not just this sort of UI for the person with the world, but actually intimate interaction between smart machines and digital humans, you have to imagine, how this network will work. And social intelligence and augmented reality is intimately linked. Again, Blaise, who was at our 2010 event, talked about dynamic augmented reality. Ooh, mapping. It should have been mapping. But this is actually critical. Why is it critical? Because the reality is always changing. You're not going to be able to lock off a reality map of the world. And this was a more recent HoloLens work to look at combining social mapping for augmented reality in the cloud. Just, this is, reality is changing. What happens when someone else revisits the same place? So then what is this, what does augmentation really mean? Because I really do think we need to move away from the idea we're creating a UI, a new UI. It's so far beyond that now. And this was something Bruce said in 2010, that we should really focus on augmenting, experiences and people who really, really would get something out of it. Augmentation means to improve the world. It doesn't mean to degrade the world. And he made this comment, and I think Oxsight is really one of my favorite projects at the moment, partly because it shows some of the most sophisticated AI for augmented reality in the wild. And what does that mean? This is the future. Yes, it's not maybe the most elegant headset. He's using an off-the-shelf headset, but it's a nice design with that, I think, given the limitations. But this is what it's about, extended cognition. Your glasses, this is from Stephen Hicks, are there to become a personal extension of how you see the world. And key to that is obviously, the AIs that he's using for semantic object recognition. And again, another key thing, we can't separate the ideas of perception and creativity. That's something very interesting we're discovering. And if you look back at the laws of AI, that's kind of problematic. The last 4 laws were a lot about humans' special powers, and creativity was one of them. But we're beginning to see that perception and machine perception, which is critical to AR and VR, are actually linked to creativity. And this is another classic problem. I don't know if anyone's ever heard David A. Smith talk, but at the IEEE, he gave a wonderful talk. And this was this point that what is the equivalent of Doug Engelbert's mouse for VR? Until we solve this, we don't even have a UI, in my opinion. So, and I think the answer to this is, obviously, I think I put these quotes in, but I think artificial intelligence will take over the user experience to analyze reactions, and this will be in real time, and this will give the intuitive, personalized experiences that are what augmentation is about. And then this is the other thing. If you know me, you know I'm an absolute stickler for the eyewear now. It can be done, it will be done, and it is not going to be boxes on your head. It's not going to be geeky looking. But this is an interesting little point here that it is our, I'm calling it silicon photonics or nanotechnology. This integration is very deep with our human perception, human photonics. And in fact, Bernard Kress, who has done some wonderful talks on this, has made this map of where eyewear is actually going. And of course, it's actually integrating deeper and deeper with human perception. We're already, I think, around somewhere between number 4 and number 5, perhaps. And this is really critical. We're now, computing isn't out there on a screen, it's in here, linking the machine perception and human perception. And this, again, Bernard Kress has wonderful talks on this. His outlining of this new optical toolkit, that's why I'm a believer. We will get the glasses. We will get these wear all day. We will get these fashion-sensitive eyewear in a form factor that's low power, all of the requirements. And that's important because I think smartphone AR is absolutely telling us where this is going, but the future is not in a little tiny screen. I mean, particularly you want the wide field of view, or you want to go clear and see augmentation. VR and AR should not be separate eyewear, separate devices. And when they're not, then you will see AR become the user interface to everything. And I'm sure people here are familiar with Chris Milk, his wonderful work on empathy in VR. But I want to take that, and that's part of this XR definition, one step further. It isn't just empathy between human beings. It's actually our first time to actually have something we might call empathy with our smart machines. And I'm not just talking about the future, I'm talking about companies who are deep into AR right now, like Continental, who's working on heads-up displays. They really believe that this is the pathway to the self-driving cars, is this pathway of trust. We have to learn to trust our smart machines. Therefore, we need a language that we speak and understand together. And basically, this is actually straight from Continental's website. And they really are following that. They really believe this, and I believe this too, that augmentation is going to be necessary for this trust, for us to learn how our self-driving cars act and see. And it's just the beginning. So I tried to feel this is only a very quick definition, but I really do think we have to begin to move on with our understanding of what augmented reality is, what augmentation's about, and we actually have to bring these digital agents into our thinking and the smart machines. And that's not the greatest definition, but that's something like this. And the other thing is, which is tricky, is none of this has to be weighed down by reality. Reality is very important. I think anyone, again, who knows my history, I think, first of all, the reality capture of the world is primary. I mean, until you can begin to understand, actually capture the world, make it computable, make it interactable, then you really can't explore some of the most, interesting, actually, aspects of XR. And this is they're very unknown territory. I think we all know that teleportation is really important and really big, but what's beyond that? And what happens when we're all connected in this sort of intimate relationship together, a network relationship? And we can't, I mean, the only way you can tell the digital human in this picture is he doesn't have the eyewear on, because he doesn't need it. So, you know, what's happening now in this? I think you know, and what's so wonderful about this sort of AI-first revolution is we're actually in the point now, a lot of this is just commoditized. So you can actually, there are open APIs, there are open platforms. You do not have to be the kind of person who can build your own mind model and invent a new algorithm for AI. A lot of the hard, heavy lifting's done, and you can just play with it and see how you can transform your work with it. And this, they've open sourced the DeepMind Lab for agent-based AI research. Now, as far as I know, these are not social in the way that I'm imagining with the humans and the digital agents. I'm not sure anyone's done that really yet, because you would need a networked sort of virtual society. But certainly you can, you know, work with DeepMind Lab, and it's, I mean, the fundamental is there. This is, you know, navigation, memory, 3D vision from a first-person point of view, motion control, planning, strategy, and time. This is somewhere where our digital and artificial intelligences can really learn in many of the ways we learn. And I was just like playing with ideas of things that might happen and what would search look like in a world like this. Well, search would probably be Bing for your digital strategist's best experience for the outcomes of probable situations or something like that. And I don't know, you know, this is again one step ahead, but I think you know, we're going to see quantum computing really have a place in all of this, because the sort of binary on and off is really not the multi-level logic that this kind of augmentation requires. So I think it's just a speculation, but you know, I think we're beginning to see this sort of interaction between artificial intelligence and human intelligence that will actually optimize the processes of learning to learn and beyond. And this is, again, you know, thinking about it and thinking about these networked, you know, physical and virtual realities. We're really thinking about this, you know, amazing sort of extension of agency. And this is a book, right, he's a Scottish, I think, or British philosopher. But, you know, this is kind of, you know, we've long understood that mind and body are not two separate things. But I think, you know, this sort of analysis of really what agency and mind are about really suits our, you know, modeling of our next generation of AIs, or artificial intelligences. And again, this is something why I think XR is different from AR and MR, is that fundamentally we are predictivores. That is exactly what we are. And anyone who's working right now on solving concrete problems in AR and VR knows that this aspect of prediction is just vital for tracking, for all kinds of things, for SLAM. SLAM, when I first went, you know, learned about SLAM, it was not, you know, we did not actually think AI would be as central as it is now. So, you know, SLAM, simultaneous localization and mapping, that's, you know, definitely become part of this world. And this aspect of prediction is actually inherent to all human beings. We're not passively taking in data. We're actually, you know, predicting most of what I see in the world. And this is another important thing. Perception and cognition are not actually separate. And we know this is a little test if you've ever done this. You can decipher extremely garbled speech if you're suitably primed. And again, I think way back when, maybe in 2006 or somewhere, I wrote about, you know, artificial general intelligence and virtual worlds, because, you know, having this opportunity where, you know, these intelligences, our own intelligence and our agents can evolve in a space which is this is a language, it's machine language that machines understand, but 3D and interacting in real space is the natural language of human beings. There's got to be a lot more to it, obviously, but it's certainly a beginning. And just that's so at a fundamental, what are we doing when we're getting into this augmentation? We're actually not just augmenting reality and putting pretty pictures on it and nice UIs to things. We're actually expanding what it means to be human. And again, you know, David Smith put it another way in his IEEE talk, when you expand the nature of communication, you expand what it means to be human. And of course, I'm going to add the digital agents, non-human. So this is a philosophical problem, so it's maybe a good place to end. But if you think about it, we're talking about re-engineering the human mind. And once you do that, the future actually becomes unimaginable. It's a very interesting problem. This book, Homo Deus, is really all about that if you're interested in exploring it. And so from here, once we have this new idea of augmentation, we're getting into sort of thinking about how do we transcend screens. This is not as far off as you think. If anyone here has followed the work of Mary Lou Jepson, who was head of display and engineering at Facebook, she has a startup, Open Water, that's basically investigating a totally new approach to brain imaging that really fundamentally will be the foundation to thought-controlled computing, or at least that's the hope. And you've all must have heard of this, and this is what I'm saying about, this is the biological engineering part of this. And again, we have two examples. We even have, I think, kernel are tools for a neural link. So, once you get the tool makers in there, that shows that a space is beginning. And again, it's this co-evolution of human intelligence and artificial intelligence. And I don't want to put this off out into the future alone. Everything right now that is every aspect of what we do, I think you can find ways to, use our new superpowers in AI to actually do it better. I don't say every problem's going to be solved by AI, but you look at the work in computational photography where we can take blurry photographs and bring them into sharp focus. This, and again, as I pointed out, SLAM is computer vision foundational to this, and this AI and computer vision together, a match made in heaven. And the final thought, if you thought VR sickness was challenging, why is VR sickness challenging? It's because of this close integration with our human perception. Basically, VR sickness is you trigger the old part of your brain that thinks you're being poisoned because there's a disparity between what the body's doing and what you see. But think about this. These are really big problems and very, very interesting ones. And thank you. And again, to say I'm talking with my hat on as the co-founder of AugmentedReality.org. I am the director of AR+VR at Huawei USA Technologies. And please come up to me if you want my Huawei hat on. We're very interested in meeting the startups, hearing about what you're doing. I think we have more than 10 people here, so if you can't find me, come and have a conversation and we can talk more about what we're doing. Thank you.